Actually, because we don't have much time left, I think I might just open it straight up. I don't know if you can hear me. Because we don't have much time left, I might just open up straight up to the audience. Do we have the microphone people around? Yep, we had one over there and one over there. I just thought there might be some questions you might want to ask these speakers while they're here to find out more. If not, I have plenty of questions. Big pause. Okay, the one over there.
This is for Martin. How was your experience using what you said, a reactor? Reality actor, or of course using characters for 5 months straight?
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Most important thing, she co-wrote the thing together with me, so she had the story in her backbone, so she could freely improvise completely from anything. And when we designed that character, we partially took traits from her also, for her to be able to sustain this character for such a long time. Doing a very extreme character for that amount of time can be taxing, and of course she collapsed completely after the project. But she knew this, she knew what she was getting into. So, and her name is Adriana Scarpid, and and I think that this is a new avenue for actors, definitely, that will be increasingly important as these things come along. The same thing in doll play, we had an actor that we threw into a container and kept her locked in there, and the players could only communicate with her through a video feed. So that was sort of the same process. I think the actor would draw their skill sets from the methods of Stanislavski's training, primarily, with the thinking of your feet from Keith Johnstone's improv exercises. That would be my very quick answer to the question. Yeah. It was awesome working in a way like that also, because you can push story content out and improvise as a game master or as a writer, and immediately get it across through a face that just says, this is the story. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another question? Someone from over here? Yep.
Martin, you seem to be suggesting there's some sort of hierarchy with this sort of interactive or participatory stuff being better than authored material. Am I right on that? Or
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
Yeah, I think that. And
why?
Yeah, because I think that an even playing field is always better than a pyramid and a hierarchy. And I think that we've been dominated by mass medial sender-receiver culture for thousands of years, and it's time for a change. And I think we now have the technology and the maturity as a civilization to start playing with each other instead of telling things to each other. That's definitely my opinion. I think they will exist side by side, and I have nothing against a great story, but yes, I think it is better. I think it makes for better people if we play together. I think it's hard going to war with someone that you play hide and seek with.
Okay, thank you. I think what I might do is I'll ask David a question, going from the other point of view in terms of if you are actually writing and designing these experiences, what did you find was different coming from a traditional writing background into gaming? What are the skills that are needed, and what were the skills that followed through?
I think you need to have an appreciation of the other parts of the team, if you like. So if you're writing for something like theatre, you're really only dealing with actors, lighting, sound. When you're creating a project like this, you have a huge number of media at your disposal, so you could end up working with games creators, billboard guys, pretty much any medium you can think of. And so you need to be very flexible. You need to think about what medium suits the message you're trying to get across at that particular time. Not just what the message is, but what different characters would use. Would different characters prefer to use Twitter or a blog or spray paint things on walls around London? You know, just you have to think more widely than just having a blank piece of paper in front of you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Another question? One down here. It's there.
Sorry, just challenge the theatre metaphor.
Oh.
Just challenge the theatre metaphor that you used there. Do you think you'll create something that will last as long as a play by Shakespeare? Or, I mean, this is radically different because it is by definition disposable because of the.
I think it would last as long as a performance of a play by Shakespeare. I mean, people could remake.
An hour and a half.
People could remake Z. People could do different versions. I mean, it's a performance. It's a one-off. It's a gig. And as people have said already today, recorded media is kind of becoming less valuable. The one thing you can't is actually becoming more valuable is an experience, a live experience, first-hand experience, and being able to say that you were there. So to some extent, the ephemeral nature of it is its value, but it can be replayed. It's like going to see a live theatre show is an experience. And I think in theory, these games could be repurposed and remade and live on.
If you extend that, then you're almost challenging the whole idea of making a film in the first place, or making a movie or a documentary or something.
I'm not saying that films are bad at all, as I said.
Live and interactive.
No, I come from that sort of, let's call it traditional media background. I think they're perfectly valid. I think this is just a different way of telling stories, and I think it's something that, you know, a lot of the people in this room should maybe consider, rather than thinking of a film and then expanding. Just think about how you might tell a story using all those different media in conjunction on a more balanced and equal footing.
I mean, one of the things that's been sort of shifting is that you see some filmmakers who start thinking about other mediums, and they usually start with it, thinking about it in terms of as a promotional device, and they start using that promotional device for the actual storytelling, and they start thinking more about what is specific to writing for those different mediums, and then they get to the point where the film is not necessarily the tent pole or the primary part of the experience, that all of the mediums are equal, and then they start actually considering, you know, what is more appropriate. It's not all just, you know, dancing around the film. You can do that, but this panel is about discussing this end of the spectrum or the choice, where there are practitioners who are actually thinking in that medium agnostic manner, and they're thinking in terms of just using any media for part of the experience. So, I think I'll open up for one more question just over there, and then we'll.
The genres that you seem to be using are quite mystery, horror, science fiction. Has anyone ever made a romantic comedy or mini reality game?
I was actually talking about this last night. I think because so much of these things are driven, these stories are driven by community activity and discussion. If you have a conspiracy thriller, there's loads of room for speculation and discussion. If you have a boy meets girl story, there are only two possible outcomes. There's not so much to talk about. And I think it's certainly you can have love stories within these differently shaped cross-media projects. But yeah. I confess I am a boy.
Yes. I'll share it for those who were watching on the webcast. It was like, yeah, only a boy could say that. Yeah, two outcomes.
No, I don't think there is any limit to what kind of stories you can tell. I've seen, like, at least if you move it into the physical event space, then there's no limits to what you can, the kind of stories you can tell, because it's like life. I mean, hey. I
think we got to remember this sort of thing is really, really in its infancy still. I mean, we're still at, we're still at Kitty Hawk. We're still at, we're trying to look at and say, what does entertainment look like when it's not just limited to one platform? How do we tell the story using all these different ways, and how do we address things like pacing and coherence and focus and momentum and all those classic things. I mean, and those conventions really, they're still developing. We haven't come up with the equivalent of the 3-camera shoot or the 3-act form, or even just editing. When films were first going, it was just a camera pointed at a stage, and they were doing stage plays. So that's what webisodes are now. It's TV this big. There's all sorts of ways that you can tell a story, and that's what we're trying to look at, and not limit ourselves. And any kind of story can be told. Right now, it is kind of technocentric, because that's inherent. I mean, that's the easy version, but I don't think there's any limit on.
Often there's stories about the internet because they take place on the internet. Yeah. So often
but as it becomes more ubiquitous and part of our lives, then you can tell those stories more easily.
That's great. We have to end there. Thank you all to our panellists. I'll get it out. Thank you.